What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome. Week 8 edition of Matchup Points coming at you right now on FantasyPoints.com. I'm John Hansen, Graham Barfield, Brett Whitefield, Two Fields, Tommy T on the other side, and let's go because there's no freaking bye weeks here, and we got a lot to get to as week number 8 kicks off this evening in Los Angeles. Hopefully the fan base there doesn't give a rat's ass about the Rams because they've got Dodgers fever. Let's get that out of the way. But Grandma, I'll start with you. My producer for the program I do just on VSiN just texted me, do I start Puka tonight? So let me just pass that right along to you. Does he start Puka tonight? Your thoughts?
Just lobbed a grenade my way. Thank you. Yeah, I think he's going to be limited. He's been limited in practice all week. He's barely practiced all year, basically. I could see him just having a super small snap share. So, it's Sean McVay. Last week, Jordan Whittington was healthy, but didn't play. We'll see. We were talking a little bit before the show, like what stands out in this spot. And even if Sean McVay got, Puka back, we got cut back, this would be a cup spot. Vikings are just getting cleaned out in the middle, 102 yards per game to opposing slot receivers. Kupp has run a very nice 69 routes this year, and he's been the first read on 52% of them. So if they're actually dead set on trading him, like this is the spot to show that he's fully healthy.
Showcase.
That's really my only lean in this game. Puka's obviously the toughest call, though. That's definitely a little bit of a surprise. They're going to try to give him a go.
I still kind of like Tutu. Brett, the Vikings. They give up a lot of pass attempts. Bottom line, like 42 a game, most in football. And he thought, will Matt Stafford actually throw 2 touchdowns? I kind of think he will in this game. I think they're going to give the Vikes a game.
Yeah, some of that's been game script dictated, right? Like big leads in a couple of those early games, especially against the Packers. They were up 21-0 at one point. So I do wonder if in closer games, if the Rams will still lean on the run. Minnesota's run defense has been really bad lately too. Last 3 weeks they're getting gashed on the ground. So I do think LA probably sticks with the game plan. Kupp's a huge addition for them. I actually picked the Rams to win this game, John. I know it's going to make you mad.
Wow. Nah.
But
no.
Nope.
We do have the data point. Sorry to cut you off on Kyron though. The man gap concept stuff. The Vikings seemingly are, I guess, have they been getting shredded by zone runners? I lost track of that, but apparently they're still very good against man and gap. Yeah,
they're the last couple of teams they've played are zone heavy teams. The Lions have gone really zone heavy this year, and the Lions obviously gashed them last week. But I do think the Rams style of running, whether it's inside zone or duo, it still all looks kind of like zone. So it's not straight gap scheme. It's more of a everything they do kind of looks like inside zone or an iteration of inside zone. So
it's kind of like Kupp is inside, but he's not inside. Like like 7 slot receivers. Over anything jump out to you, Graham, for the Vikings? For me, I thought, and again, keep in mind, I'm always looking for the guy who comes out, not a nowhere, but the sleeper, the guy who pops, obviously I have to do it for every damn game. So, don't get offended if it doesn't work out. But the name that came to me was Addison. Good data on the cover 3 stuff. No Hawkinson. Rams are more of a perimeter funnel, right? Anything jump out to you for the Vikings?
Yeah, obviously Addison in a great spot here. I mean, Rams just don't have the cornerback talent to have anybody to run with him. Last 3 games, it's just been the Jefferson show, 40% first read target share. But, Addison's kind of been like the Jalen Waddle of this offense, 25% first read target share. So, yeah, he definitely stood out to me as a wide receiver 3. Just watching the game, I will say before we move on, Aaron Jones coming back from the sore hamstring still looks incredible against the Lions. Like, obviously you're playing him in every lineup this week, but I just want to note he looked awesome coming off the hamstring.
Brett, do the Vikings really, 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 really want to get Aaron Jones the ball because they might be a little worried about the big-headed one, Sam Darnold here? It looked like he was starting to turn into a pumpkin last week. What do you think?
Yeah, he did. I mean, the turnover was bad. Obviously, completely missed a coverage rotation there. The sacks he took were just also of the awful variety.
Yeah.
Holding the ball way too long with no plan to escape or check it down. Like those sacks all happened like after 3 seconds of him holding the ball. Not the good kind of sacks you want to be taking. So I'm sticking with I think Sam Darnold slipping into the old habits routine that I've done the last few weeks.
No,
It's
I see it.
One of the reasons I picked the Rams is because I think their D line has looked good of late. They're a really good blitzing team, and that's given Darnold some issues.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody tweeted me this week, when I sent that out, it was like O'Connell and the coaching staff, they can only hide, shield so much. Basically, it's still Mr. Panic Attack. I mean, he just does not handle pressure well. Like no one does, but you would think you get a little bit better. Yep. Nope, not Sammy. Philly at Cincinnati. Graham, we'll go back to you. I mean, Philly's pretty easy. Like AJ Brown, they play a lot of single high, right? I think Skinny B comes back, and then Barkley, and that's about it. Jalen Hurts, I don't know if he's going to run for 50 yards all year at this point because he looks sluggish as hell to me. But
yeah, he doesn't look totally right. He looked okay. I thought the speed was kind of back-ish, but yeah, Hurts has definitely lost a step or two. Interesting last week, Bengals did, they play a good amount of single high, sure, but they do play a good bit of zone. I will say one thing last week with Devonta Smith, like Hurts only needed 14 pass attempts to just dust the Giants. So that was all game script with Devonta Smith. Much better spot. This is kind of like the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle thing, though. Like we were just talking about again, like Brown has 41% of the first 3 targets in their 3 games together. Devonta Smith is at 24%. He is getting like the easy access, slot targets underneath, which is great for PPR, but Brown has all of the upside here. Obviously, this is just kind of like a smoke 'em if you got him game, right, John? Like you're just playing all your guys that you got in this game.
Yeah, and then Brett, the data looks pretty good for the Bengal running game, believe it or not, with Chase Brown here. Eagles, they're getting ripped a little bit, and Chase Brown, a lot of the runs on zone, and Eagles are not good defending those zone concepts.
Yep, for sure. Again, like what Graham said, I think this is a play him if you got him game. I don't know that either defense is well prepared to stop either offense. So I love Chase Brown in this game though, and Saquon. We gotta hat tip the Philadelphia offensive line right now. I think Saquon's got 4 carries of 50 yards or more this year where he hasn't been touched. Yeah. I mean, that is insane. That's like absurd. No effort required other than speed. It's pretty cool to see. So I think he's obviously matchup proof.
What's the deal with Mailata? I mean, they didn't put him on IR, right?
I don't believe so.
Let me double check. No, they put him on IR last week, actually.
Oh, they did.
He's got the hamstring.
How about, is that Mekhi Becton? Is he
yeah, and he's hurt too, I believe.
Yeah, he is hurt. That's why I picked it up on the internet. Yeah. Has he been starting?
At right
guard, right? Oh, yeah, he is. He is.
Yeah.
Fred Johnson's playing left tackle while Mailata's out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Becton's hurt too, but I don't know if that matters too much for this spot. I mean, Bengals, they've gotten a pretty good job, I think, getting pressure, but their run defense has not been good. Chase Brown, Brett, really starting to come up with a role, man. It's looking like you were right. Moss will continue to kind of be the pass protection, get a couple targets kind of guy, but the roles just continue to come up. The biggest thing the last 2 weeks that I've seen, Chase Brown has 7 snaps inside the 20. Zach Moss has 0. So that's huge for fantasy moving forward if Brown continues to get that red zone role.
It's a great pull.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, thank God I was in on Brown. I thought I was going to end up being wrong on that one, but nope. The Brown people were correct, I believe. He is who we thought he would be.
John, I literally wrote it up as just draft both. They were so cheap. One of these guys is going to pop, and we love Joe Burrow. So, they were too cheap. But Chase definitely had the most upside, that's for sure.
One thing I did note, like, I'm like, I don't know if, I think they do need Moss, but I still stuck with Brown, and that's good because the talent tends to win out. Baltimore at Cleveland. Well, here we go with the Ravens D again, Brett. My daughter is down in college first semester, and I feel like I paid for her first semester advocating tight ends against Baltimore this year. So David Njoku, baby.
Yeah, we talked about him yesterday on your show, right? We did.
Yeah. We talk about tight ends against Baltimore a lot this year. Like I love Zach Ertz 2 weeks ago. Crushed
John,
it.
you nailed Kate Otten last week too. You were saying Otten's going for like 6 for 80, and now they get 7 for 100. You nailed that.
That's right.
Here's a
That's right.
Or a Baltimore defense stat here: 10.52 yards per target to inline players. That is that's a lot. that's basically a first down per every time a tight end's target, which should not be the case. So,
yeah, Graham, do you have any particular interest in Tillman or Judy or neither? I know Jameis did target Judy when he came into the game.
I like Tillman more long term, but I will admit I'm a little Jerry Jeudy curious again, just a little bit, just a little. It's not much, but it's a little, John. I mean,
it's fluid.
4 targets.
It's fluid.
We're moving on it, right? It's like water. But hey, 4 targets on Winston's drive last week. All 4 of his targets came on that drive. He ran 52 routes and only got a 13% first read target share last week. Not great. I think Tillman is the better mesh with Winston long term. He's a pretty good vertical X receiver. Like, these volunteer Tennessee receivers have been kind of bad. Obviously, Jalen Hyatt's just been a mega bust, but Tillman's pretty good.
Right.
First read target share last week of 31% in your first game, tied the team lead with Njoku. Super impressive. So I've been buying Tillman on teams where I've lost Godwin and Ayuk. And Judy I think is a fine play this week, just because we're getting Winston, and as you've noted, I mean, it's just a really good matchup.
Yeah, I like Tillman. Tillman's like that old school one, that kind of possession-y guy, all that. Great dude, by the way. He will not. I interviewed him in Indy. He will not play inside. I'm like, you're outside only. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, all right. I mean, that guy's not playing. But yeah, real nice guy. Dad played in the NFL. I love those dudes. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Cedric Tillman, all good dudes who know what's up. And so he'll be ready. Then over for the Ravens, Brett. It's Baltimore against Cleveland. So they're going to win. So that means Derrick Henry's probably running for $120. But what about the passing game here? I know you do feel pretty good about Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I just absolutely love this matchup for Zay Flowers. Also the Ravens pass offense has really impressed me the last few weeks. They're really pulling it together. Everyone's starting to develop a role. Bateman has a role. Flowers has his role. Andrews is alive. He has a pulse, guys. He's still leading the NFL in ass for tight ends. But Flowers this week, he averages 27.4% target share against man coverage the last 4 weeks. Obviously, Cleveland's, they play a ton of man. They give up a lot of yards in man, 8.49 yards per attempt in man coverage, which is the 4th worst mark in the league. They've given up 13 yards per attempt to slot targets in man coverage as well. So this is a really, really good metric, or a really, really good spot for Flowers. He's also just been a great separator, one of the best separators from the slot in the league this year. And we love the separatists. So I think this is, repeatable here.
By the way, not for nothing, but like the answer to the Mark Andrews conundrum 3 weeks ago was contained in his ass, right? I mean, when he was not doing a damn thing, diddly poo, and people were like, what the F is going on here? We were like, hey, still has a good ass. And then boom, right? Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. I've been patiently waiting because the ass has still been good. It's just the role is odd. They're playing 3 different tight ends.
True.
It's still true. Lamar is finally comfortable throwing the ball downfield, though, and that's really helped Andrews, because early in the season, Lamar wouldn't throw anything downfield unless it was scramble drill, and now he's actually throwing downfield from the pocket, which is nice to see.
That's been the biggest thing with Andrews. And one real quick note on this game. I was just going through our data suite, looking at the weekly stuff in the coverage matrix tool, and Cincinnati did not play as near as much man last week. They cut it down. Cleveland cut their man coverage down to 17% last week against the Bengals. I went back and looked 2 years or last year in two matchups against Jackson. The Browns were played man 46 and 50% of the time. So if they do play a ton of man this week, it's definitely a Zay Flowers and Bateman week. But I did want to note that, I mean, they have shown that they'll cut it down significantly, which is kind of an interesting like catch-22 with Lamar. Because like, do you really want to play a ton of man against him and have your back turned against him a ton?
They drafted JOK to be the Lamar stopper. Like, he's the shadow.
There you go.
They play a lot of man so that they can, QB spy with JOK basically. And
there you go. So they'll keep it up then this week. You think, Brett?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And by the way, we're trying to get in within the head-on battle between like offensive coaches and defensive coaches, and like, you could suffer some serious paralysis by but they play a lot of man, but maybe they'll switch up, but maybe they won't. You know what I mean? Like, at some point you gotta just kind of settle in. Like, this is kind of who they are, and they're man heavy, man centric, if you will. Let's move on here to, this will be quick. Tennessee at Detroit, and next. No. I mean, is there anything, Graham, to be had in fantasy with the Titans? I'm going to say no, because I don't like Tony Pollard this week, and we'll see if Spears returns.
Yeah, definitely a huge ding in the projection for Pollard. Lions didn't play as good run defense last week without Hutchinson, but I still think long-term this is going to be a good run defense. Spears might be back. If he's not, you can go back to Pollard as like a volume-based RB2. John, you and I were giving out a little bit of Ridley love with Rudolph last week, and it was the classic something? Calvin Ridley, though. He got the 9 targets, he dropped 2, only 5 were catchable. The volume will be there. It's just hard to get there with Ridley at this point. It's really hard to get there.
No, I know. I was not in on him, thank God. Brett, anything on Tennessee?
Yeah, the run defense with Detroit, it's been still really good. The lowest success rate allowed per attempt in the league, but they have been leaky as far as they've given up some big plays. Jones had 61 yards on 2 carries last week, and then the other 12 went for 30. So
is that like not setting the edge there?
Yeah. It's guys getting a little confident shooting gaps they probably shouldn't.
Well, what happened on that? What happened on the touchdown run? Because it seemed like they just completely blew the edge on the outside.
They did. The force defender shot an inside gap, thinking he had help on the outside, and he didn't because the coverage was rolling away from him. So it was that was a miscomm. Ends up in a 34-yard touchdown, and there was a 16 or 17 yarder in there. That kind of the same thing happened as well. So, and we saw that against Seattle, right? Kenneth Walker was dreadful that whole game, but he had 2 carries that went for long runs, which made his stat line look better. But overall, I still really believe in the Lions defense being good. But that said, Pollard has some juice. So if he can get a leaky edge, he can make them pay for that. So I think Pollard's probably the guy on Tennessee you want to be interested in here.
Hey, John, real quick. I've been struggling all week with Jared Goff. Like, for fantasy, like, he's been playing so well. The efficiency's been great, playing much better. But like, do we really think Titans keep up in this game?
No, we don't. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And we were And you and I were on the same page with Goff last week, because we both, didn't we say, like, he should be considered a QB1?
Yeah.
And I think, but I don't think so this week. Also not the greatest. It just doesn't look good for Amon Ra. Like, he's Amon Ra, but it just feels like a 5 catch for 59 game. And if he doesn't score, no Jameson. Titans have been stingy against tight ends. So I think Dave Montgomery could score like 3 tutties here. It's like Gibbs and Montgomery.
The Titans thing, it's interesting because they, on paper, they're like 7th in yards per attempt and like the number 1 overall defense in terms of yards allowed. But you look at the context there. They played Caleb Williams in his first start. They played the Jets, Malik Willis, Tyler Huntley, Anthony Richardson, like bad quarterbacks.
Oh.
Yeah. So I do think Detroit absolutely nukes them. I think, for Amon-Ra, he's got to do all of his damage in the first half.
Yeah. And to that point, Brett, I mean, Allen just had 10 yards per pass attempt last week on 33 throws. L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed was out, and he might miss this game again, but it's a great point.
Sneed's been bad this year for them, so.
Yeah.
I just said on the podcast that we recorded, I'm like, Goff's going to complete like 17 to 21 for like 240, which is a great number.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just whether or not he gets 2 or 3 touchdowns instead of maybe 1.
Yep.
Right. Indy at Houston. And Graham, Get ready to be happy because I got your tight end streamer of the week, baby.
Let's go.
Dalton Schultz. I know nothing if I don't know that Dalton Schultz will ball out this week against the Indianapolis Colts. There's a reference for the kids. That's a Hogan's Heroes reference from like the late 60s. But I mean, look, they're getting crushed. They're zone heavy. Schultz is Mr. Zone. Enjoy Dalton Schultz.
Listen, you've been like hitting 1,000 basically on your skanky tight end calls all year. So I'm just going to straight up listen to you. I mean, Schultz has not been involved. John, you nailed this last year. I think it was around the same point. You were like, it was around the same point last year where you were like, Dalton Schultz has got to get involved in this offense. And he did. And he was pretty good for the rest of the year. So I'm with you on that. I think, guys, we got to go right back to Tank Dell. I know the air ball was awful last week. Brett, I want to get your opinion on this matchup a little bit for him, but dropped the touchdown. The first retarget share is bananas, 38%. Last 2 games without Nico. What happened with Dell last week? What'd you see?
Stroud played like crap is what happened.
Okay.
Stroud was legitimately awful in that game. Probably, in my opinion, his worst game as a pro. Colts can't pressure the quarterback like Green Bay can. They also don't have the coverage defenders that Green Bay has. I think Stroud will bounce back. I totally agree with you. Tank Dell should smash the Colts in the face.
But Brett, I'll say this. I feel like right now, I mean, maybe this isn't a bold statement anyway, but I feel like right now Nico Collins is like top 5.
Yeah.
Just difference make like the cheat code to stopping CJ Stroud is you take out Nico Collins. Getting in his Uber and steal the car so he can't get to the game. That's the cheat code. Because I mean, the guy's unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like, and it's such a difference without him. It's like shocking to me a little bit.
Yeah, the splits are actually crazy. I meant to prepare them to bring on, and I totally forgot. But the splits are nuts. Like Stroud is he's legitimately been bad without Nico Collins on the field going back to last year. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So trade for him. I would. I mean, if you could sell depth. I mean, this guy's a freaking needle moving MFer, man. I mean, he's like right up there with Justin Jefferson at the end of, really, and CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion.
He's just gotten better too. Collins has just gotten better. I mean, he's been even better this year. I mean,
it's an old school ascension. It's like he's in the 80s. Yeah. This is what happened. This is how dudes played and got better in the late 80s, you know?
Yeah, and especially the way he plays too is like that X receiver who relies on speed. I will say this is it's a great spot for Stroud, but I have the splits here. I mean, 5 yards per pass attempt this season without Nico. I mean, it's pretty brutal. I mean, he's played really well against the Colts, but he's had Nico in all of those games. Stroud has. So Stroud is honestly, like, if this weren't an amazing matchup, I'd be really, really concerned about his outlook. But yeah, still in on Dell. And John, you're just going to be right about Dalton Schultz. I'll just pencil in what do you think? 6 for 74? Sound good?
Let's go 5. It'll be a 5 for like 70. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. 5 for 70.
That means there can be a big play in there then. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. Well, I don't have much on Indy. JT, I feel like he's a guy, just for what it's worth, and I talked with my guy, Dr. Mark Addix, about this. Like, he's kind of like McCaffrey at this point. Like, it's like, guys, sorry, but I'm not playing unless I'm good to go. You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of cautious with it. So I feel like he is good to go, but I also feel like he'll probably need a week, and this is not the greatest matchup. I mean, Brett, this is a scary matchup, I think, because Houston's got a good run defense and a good pass rush.
Yeah, their pass rush is nasty. It's really come on too. Weeks 1 and 2 were kind of ugly, but they've figured some stuff out. They're also killing people with the blitz lately. Like 50% pressure rate, which was not something they were doing last year or early this year. So, I mean, yes, Richardson, this could be a like 3 turnover game for Richardson, unfortunately. But.
Yeah, that's a massive concern because I was just looking into this. I mean, Richardson got blitzed 50% of the time last week. He had no answers. He has a negative adjusted net yard per attempt, which factors in sacks and picks against the blitz. Dead last in completion rate under expectation against the blitz. This is a huge trouble spot, obviously. I mean, charted accuracy has been abysmal for him all year, but like, he has no answers against the rush besides scrambling. Basically, that's really it.
Graham, I looked at every element. This is my biggest concern for Dalton Schultz, that Anthony Richardson will suck so bad that they don't even freaking need Dalton Schultz. How pathetic is that?
Yeah.
But I still think he can get 4, let's say, for 50.
Yeah, that's my concern in this game too. If the one thing here we have to hang our hat on is JT will be back. Maybe he rips off a long play, but man, the passing offense with Downs and Pittman. I was just hoping like, man, maybe we'll get Downs in here. We'll get some timing and rhythm stuff. Like he's fully healthy. Nope, not possible. Not possible.
I have thought about making some, my guruism jokes about these guys relating to health issues, but I won't go there. Like I was thinking about the guy Parkinson. I won't go there, but it's hard for me not to go there. But we'll move on. Green Bay at Jacksonville. Sometimes I like to go a little weird with the comedy, because what makes us upset, you kind of laugh it off, and some people get offended, unfortunately. Green Bay at Jacksonville. I kind of like this one for Trevor. Graham, to you, the Jaguar person here. I mean, does seem like a decent schematic matchup. Brian Thomas. Brian, don't call me Michael Thomas. I like it. I kind of like Trevor here.
Yeah, the game environment is definitely piqued my interest. It's hard to get Lawrence up in projections, though. I mean, he's just been such a low ceiling player in fantasy for 2 years running now. But it is a really good spot. I could be into Lawrence just because I like Jordan Love so much this week.
Yeah, that's it.
And this matchup. I mean, this game environment definitely has 50 points written all over it. In terms of just like overall matchups, though, I think Brian Thomas is like the clear guy here. I mean, he's getting better every single week. Our guy Steve O'Rourke put together some good clips of BTJ's release packages that he's just continuing to get better on. He's the freak vertical, but I think all of Lawrence's upside in this game is contingent upon Brian Thomas having just a monster game. So I'm definitely in on Lawrence just because I'm in on Thomas this week, but this game just has massive shootout appeal.
Yeah, and I got freaking Christian Kirk wrong last week, but in my defense, I mean, Lawrence literally threw 17 legitimate passes in the game. I mean, he threw 20 and like a couple of BS throwaways kind of thing. Like that's not enough, but I do think we get there here. Anything stand out to you? Well, there's a lot of good data on our guy Jordan Love and the receivers, Brett, once again.
Yeah, good matchup for Love, but Jaden Reed this week for sure. Jacksonville's given up a passer rating of 132.9 to targets to the slot. They're allowing 10.32 adjusted net yards on targets to the slot as well, and a completion percentage over expectation of plus 6.6. On top of that, Reed just looks good. The game script didn't work out for him last week, obviously, with the one catch for 11 yards. Kind of a bummer. I love coming back to him right away. He's got the 7th best ass in football among primary slot receivers. So I think that's notable there. He's, right in there with Amon-Ra St. Brown and CeeDee Lamb. He's hanging with those guys. So legitimate threat here. I love this matchup for him.
I've actually got the 2nd best ass among 50-plus-year-old fantasy analysts named John. That's bad.
Who's first?
But
who's first? We got to know now.
Not me. That's how bad my ass is. Christian Watson. I mean, do we even go there? Because they do play man, right? And he's there's going to be a moment in the next week or 2 or 3 when he's streaking down the field for a big play. But yeah, we can't do it.
Either him or Wicks is going to get one this week. I can't tell you which one, because Jacksonville's giving up a lot of big plays downfield. So
yeah.
Well, we're chasing Wicks. We're chasing Watson. I think it's Romeo Doubs. He's not the vertical threat, but he's playing really well. He's their outside wide receiver, 26% first read target share in the 4 games he's had with Reed, with Wicks, with Watson. He's having like a little mini breakout too. Good efficiency. Jags are so bad on the outside. What's that?
He does all the dirty work on that offense too.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah. And I waved the white flag this week. I'm like, that's it. Okay, my bad. I'm sorry with the Christian Watson love. I always liked Dobbs here. If we recall, a couple of years ago, we were all over that. And I've always stated, like, hey, I mean, Jordan Love freaking loves him. I mean, he's got great chemistry with him and all that. And I'm like, oh, he's boring. Well, you know what? Boring is a lot better than freaking goose eggs. I'll take a boring, 5 for 53 as opposed to a freaking goose egg. So, yeah, I give up. I'm like, just start Dobbs. You're not going to do it every week, but he'll do well 2/3 of the time, and he'll score every 3 weeks. I mean, he also has upside.
The volume's been solid. In 4 starts with Love, he's got 7, 8, 4 targets, and 10 last week. Game he had 4 targets. He scored twice against the Cardinals. Like, there's some semblance of consistency here. And John, your Jordan Love call is just like an all-timer. I mean, he's number 1 in the league by yards per game, touchdown rate. Like, he looks incredible.
Yeah, baby.
So I'm kind of buying Dobbs. Like, Jaden Reed is by far the most valuable fantasy asset here, like by far, because he gets design stuff and carries and stuff. But I kind of like Dobbs long term a little bit.
Yeah. Oh man, Love is just it's so beautiful.
So
I love it. I had the Hansen 50 where I rank him. Jordan Love, number one dude that I'm in on, and our guy Jake Ferguson was number 2, I believe, which we'll get to in a moment as we move along here. We'll stop with Arizona at Miami. Guess Marvin Harrison. Probably going to see shadow coverage here from Ramsey because Ramsey, Brett, is still good. I mean, he's still nasty back there.
Yeah, it's funny. He was bad the first couple of weeks, and then he's really turned it around. The tape has gotten much better. So, yeah, that's scary for Harrison, who has not played well. Although there are some interesting man zone splits with him that make this kind of a viable start if you believe he can beat Jalen Ramsey. But
yeah, Miami switched it up. They played a ton of cover 1 in week 5, and then last week, I was just saying they played a ton of cover 3 against Richardson. So, Brett, you think they switch back and play a little more man this week?
The thing with the way they play cover 3, it's still single high. Looks like cover 1. So those outside corners are still going to carry verticals. It's basically they play it like man, essentially press man.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of identified this as
defense.
I kind of identified it as a Marv spot just because like Tyreek and Waddle and Achane can get this game going with big plays and like the big, Brett and John, you've been on this too. Like Kyler is just not playing well, but like, can we get Harrison to design target? He has 2 design targets.
No,
absolutely. Like, why are we not using him like Jamar Chase?
In quick
get him
game.
Screens. It's insane.
Green slants, get him on an under route. Man, come on. I know it's killing.
Well, we're lucky, guys. We're lucky Tua is back because we could have seen freaking Petzing v. McDaniel. How shitty of a job can you do scheming up plays for your stud receiver? Like, who sucks more? I mean, come on. I guess Tyreek lost the ball in the lights that he may have made. I don't know if you saw that, Brett, but speaking of, did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Would have hit 50 yards?
Because it was a deep ball.
Damn it.
Yeah, I think he would have gone.
Right.
I think he would have gone the distance there. I don't know if he lost in the lights or just didn't see it, period, but it doesn't matter. I don't think he saw it part. Yeah.
I went out on a limb with him last week, and that limb broke, and I crashed to the ground and broke both my legs. But how about this? And I cannot wait because based on alignment numbers, Brett, I'll go to you. It does look like Tyreek is going to see a lot of our guy, Max Melton, friend of the site, the Melton family. Am I crazy? Does Max Melton match up pretty well?
No. I'm not.
No, of course for a rookie, but like because Max Melton can run.
He can. Well, from a speed standpoint, sure, but Tyreek's got so many tools in the bag. Like he's.
Oh God, yeah. I'm just talking straight up physical ability.
Yeah, great, phenomenal athlete for sure.
Jake Tribby posted a note in the Discord that Jalen Waddle was saying that like Tyreek and Tua have looked amazing in practice. So. I think this is like a Tua Tyreek 200-yard game.
Yeah, I'm excited. Tua's back. We finally get to activate these guys, man. They've been rotting on everyone's fantasy teams for the last month.
And then you can cut Johnny Smith now, right? Probably.
Right. After
you're welcome for last week. You're welcome because I think Scott was on it too. I know I was all over that. Well, I again, not to make this about me, but I am just fascinated because I can literally conjure up in my head visions of, again, I've been to one high school football game in the last 30 years. and Max and Bill Melton played in the game, and I can see a 13-year-old Max Melton balling out. I'm telling his dad, like, this kid's a stud, and here we are. He's going to face off against Tyreek Hill. It's like the best, most dangerous receiver in football. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. But we'll move on. Good luck to Max Melton. We'll say that. Jets, Patriots. Well, I mean, I don't have much here. I think Patriots, right? They play a lot of man, so I think Aaron will probably try and sling it all over to Wilson and Devontae. Hall should get carries late. That's about it. Graham, what do you have here?
Yeah, first round of Devontae Adams versus Garrett Wilson. I think handily went to Garrett Wilson. Got the increase in slot usage, which I called for last week. 51% of his routes lined up in the slot. It's just huge for him moving forward. He's going to avoid Christian Gonzalez in the spot. Not to say Devontae Adams can't get over on Gonzalez, but 9 targets for Wilson last week. Adams got 6. They're both high-end wide receiver twos, make no mistake, this week. But I do think I prefer Wilson just slightly this week. Brett, do you have a strong take this week about what the Patriots do with Adams? Do you think they travel with Gonzalez?
That's tough. I probably, because they're moving Wilson to the slot. We did see Porter on Wilson more last week, right?
I'd have to go back and double check
pretty
that.
Sure that's true, at least in the first half.
Yeah, I think it was close. I think it was split. It was pretty good close.
Yeah,
I do think Douglas will do well, by the way, in this game. Brett, anything else?
Pop Douglas?
Yeah.
I mean, he's surprising me. His separation score is significantly better than it was last year. And
he's their best receiver, but he's just so limited because the way they use him. I think really the only thing that stands out to me for Patriots side is Hunter Henry. I mean, May is just having to force this offense through the middle of the field. Henry's looked better too. Brett, you've been on this for a couple of years. His separation metrics have looked good.
Yeah, he looks good. They have a clear connection. I mean, he was like just peppered targets last week.
Yeah, Jets aren't like a great matchup for tight ends, but they gave up 7 for 63 and a touchdown to Bills 2 weeks ago. Steelers just got him for 6 and 87, so it's a pretty decent spot for Hunter Henry. I'm no John Hansen with these skanky tight end calls, though. I will say I'm no Hansen.
You probably remember. I was a big Hunter Henry guy when he came out. I mean, but the problem is like maybe you should go back, or I'll go back and look at when he's coming off a big game. It seems like he never backs it up because I feel like they use him. And I know last week was different because Douglas got hurt, but it feels like, they see a match and there's some sort of thing with the matchup that makes, it's a big Hunter Henry game. And then the next week they forget him. If you recall, after he had that huge game, I arrogantly bet the Austin Hooper prop just to do it. And it won. So I don't know. We'll see.
He is the one. It's like the one consistent part of this passing offense because everything else is just week to week. Yeah. Jalen Polk. Well, Jalen Polk is off to an awful start to his rookie season.
I mean,
he's been bad.
He has been ass. I know his ass looks pretty good, but his play is actual ass.
It was small sample stuff early in the season with him. I think with Polk, the separation metrics look good, and he's still getting open, but he's just the ball skills have been awful.
Well, it's
the one thing
he's running aren't valuable either. They're all just short hitches and comebacks, and there's nothing of extreme value there. So,
the one thing I'd say about Hunter Henry, just to close it, is I do feel better about just in general with May. I mean, you're getting a little bit more juice there, obviously with May. Atlanta at Tampa. I haven't talked with anybody about this. I mean, I guess it's a pretty obvious point, but I kind of feel like watching Tucker because I thought he looked good last week. So did Rashad, and so did Bucky. So, Brett, I'll go to you. Like, I feel like they're going to lean into this 3-headed monster and, like, maybe try and make it their identity, at least for now, until Godwin or Evans comes back.
Sounds like Bucky's out, right?
Yeah, no Bucky this week. He hurt his toe.
Is he out already?
Yeah, he got ruled out early.
Okay.
Yeah, it just happened maybe a couple hours before we got on.
Okay.
Yeah, last week it's interesting. Irving outsnapped White 5-2 inside the 10. So, White got there. He's going to get the receiving stuff, but I do think there's a role for Sean Tucker to be the early down guy. Brett, what's your lean on this backfield here this week?
Yeah, I just find it fascinating that, Rashad White had been so inefficient all the way up until the moment they gave him a competitor and Bucky, and all of a sudden his yards per carry are way up. His forced missed tackles are way up. His yards after like
100%.
he's like, oh shoot, I'm about to lose my job. I guess I better run harder or something. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But he's looked really good. So,
I mean, you want my opinion, and again, it's like opinions are like a-holes. You know what? Everyone has one, but like I actually know Rashad a little bit. I do not think he's ever resting on his laurels. But what I do think is that, like, because he had to pay his dues. Like, I mean, the man paid for himself to go to JUCO one year. I mean, my God, that's ridiculous when you think about it. So I feel like he's feeling the pinch, and he knows because he comes from very humble beginnings. He's like, no, I'm not going back to that S. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I've noticed that myself. Just literally the last 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, he's feeling the heat. He's bringing it a little bit more. So hey. I mean, it is the oldest trick in the book. Competition brings out the best in people, So, Cade Otton, once again, will not be rotten. He will ball the F out. I mean, he's going to catch like 80 balls this year now, Graham.
Yeah, I think he's the biggest beneficiary from the Godwin absence. I'm not going to lie. I threw up a little bit writing up this game without Godwin. Threw up in my mouth a little bit thinking about this offense without him. Just brutal. But I'm with you. I think he's the biggest beneficiary here. The volume has already been okay. He's the last 5 weeks tied with Kittle and Ferguson in targets per game. He's not obviously he's not a great player, great after the catch like Kittle is, but volume's been okay. Led the team in first read target share last week at 24%. So they've just been cleaned out. Mike Evans is on IR at least for the next 4 weeks. I'm curious, Brett, for your thoughts on this receiver room, because I think Otton is pretty straightforward. What do you make of McMillan and Trey Palmer?
So interchangeable.
I mean, the thing with McMillan is he was a good slot receiver in college. They're not playing him in the slot at all.
Yeah.
Barely, except for the 4 plays when Chris Godwin got hurt or whatever. But man, Sterling Shepard's in the slot. McMillan does not look good. I mean, he is everything about his game right now is not in sync. The route depths are off. The breaks are not crisp. The ball skills are not there. He just hasn't looked good. I was saying it before Godwin got hurt, and now I'm even more worried about this offense. But Trey Palmer's got speed he's kind of like Dontavian Wicks, extreme explosiveness. He just can't catch. It's a big problem, and they don't really trust him on the deep stuff anymore because he can't catch. So
I thought it was interesting that Palmer ran more routes than McMillan, 39 to 28. So that might speak to what you were saying with McMillan. He also dealt with a hamstring injury, so maybe he's not like fully ramped up and feeling it yet. But I'm leaving the light on for Palmer too. This is just a really good spot too. AJ Terrell is not playing well. Falcons secondary scare me.
And the Falcons, Baker kills the blitz, like 134 pass rating against the blitz this year.
He doesn't have his boy Godwin anymore, though, Brett.
Cade Otton, man. Cade Otton.
They're so good at diagnosing those, but yeah. All right.
What I'd like to see real quick, when Evans returns, is play Evans and Palmer outside and frickin' McMillan inside. I think that's the best combo, Brett. What do you think?
For sure, long term, is McMillan better player than Sterling Shepard right now? I don't know. From what I've seen, he hasn't been, but ideally you'd get him in the slot where he's comfortable and he plays a little bit better.
Yeah. Oh, I've always loved Sterling Shepard. That's like a son. But man, availability problems. Yeah. I mean, Bijan. How great does freaking Bijan look the last 2 weeks, guys? I mean, geez, he looks good. I think.
Yeah, since we questioned it, right? And it's usually how it goes.
Usually, yeah. He's off the injury report. That I do think he was a little bit beat up with that hamstring, but he looks incredible. And Bucs' run defense has just completely regressed. They've given up a league high 9% explosive run rate. Roll has gotten better too, so I do think there was a little bit to that injury, but yeah, awesome spot for Bijan. Yeah,
2 weeks ago when he was in the doldrums, I splashed him on the trade article. I'm like, look, man, when a guy like this is struggling a little bit, he's learning a new blocking scheme, he's a little banged up, he needs some help. And look at these matchups, baby. I mean, it was like 5 in a row, 6 in a row. They're like, this is great. And this is number 3 of 5. So I think we're looking good. And I mean, Brett too, like, I not to brag or anything, but in my article, in my content, I was in on Kirky, Bijan, London, Mooney, and Pitts. And I think they're all hitting.
Let's go. Love
right?
it.
I mean, are they going to get any better? Like, where are we at with it? Like, I don't think we've seen the best of this offense yet.
Yeah, that's probably true. What's really cool is they've got a nice little, trio of pass catchers now. Pitt's doing the inline stuff. Mooney's good against certain looks, and London's good against certain looks. So I think they have answers for everything, which is usually the sign of a good offense. So
yeah, we're looking good. Okay, next up we've got scrolling. Oh, this will be quick. New Orleans at LA, and I guess Graham, we're looking at no Derek Carr again, right?
Yeah, it'll be Rattler. I think Dennis Allen already confirmed it. He's, it's been atrocious. It's not just like the poor accuracy. He's just taking so many sacks, 11 sacks in his last 2 starts.
I mean, it looks bad.
I'm out on Olave this week. He should be back, but Chargers are just playing so much too high coverage, keeping everything in front of them. It's kind of like what the Bills do. Their corners just aren't great, so they just play a ton of too high. Out on Olave this week. Really, I think the only 2 players in this game are Dobbins and Kamara. I guess we can breeze through Chargers real quick, but Kamara apparently has been playing through a broken hand and broken ribs. What an absolute beast. Should be the healthiest he's been. 10 days off. So Kamara should be a little bit better this week. I just want to note that.
I love Dobbins in this game, guys.
Yeah.
Love Dobbins. Saints are giving up 5.41 yards per carry, 6.3 explosive run rate, and a success rate over 60. They have the lowest stuff rate in the league. They don't do anything right on run defense. They don't bottle up anything, and then they give up massive plays. So they're also Dobbins looks good. Top 15 in forced missed tackles. Chargers O-line is healthy again. I think this is going to be a great spot for Dobbins. Great bounce back too. 40-yard game last week. I think they come back with a vengeance trying to run the ball.
Oh yeah, I mean, like him and Vidal could get 15 carries in this game. I mean, given how bad New Orleans has been, it's in LA too. I had something else here. Quentin Johnston probably going to see Lattimore. I would forget that. I guess maybe Ladd can do something.
It is. It's another good on paper matchup like last week, John. But the passing volume, is a little better last week, but it's still not great. I will say McConkey did hit a season high route share last week at 90%. Matchup's good. So if you got to play him in like a season long league, you can do it. But the ceiling has just not been there for this passing offense.
I kind of like Will Disley. Too. Yeah, super. Yeah, it is. I kind of like Will Disley a little bit.
Yeah. I like Disley. 11 targets last week. I mean, that's
man.
They're going to sit back and play zone coverage. He's going to be Herbert's guy. It seems like so.
Yeah, he's only in play though if Hayden Hurst is out again. The role was just awful before Hurst got out. So something to note. Newsworthy note on that one.
Yep. Buffalo at Seattle, and both running backs are looking good here.
Oh yeah, all 3.
I kind of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I was talking with Stephen O'Rourke about that. I mean, because Seattle is bad against everything, every kind of run scheme there is, and the Bills can mix it up now with Ray Davis, our guy, and Jimmy Cook.
Yeah, exactly. Cook more the zone guy, Ray Davis the gap guy. Seattle's just getting absolutely murdered on the ground. Success rate over 60%. Really, really bad. So. Yeah, I love both these guys. I think I mentioned on your show yesterday, John, I like both props here. Davis should come in around 21.5. They won't release it till Sunday morning, but I think if you get that line, you got to hit the over on it, and then the over on Cooks as well.
Graham, dare I say Dalton Kincaid?
It's an awesome matchup. God, it's an awesome matchup, but the role, John, has just been – it's not been good. He's entering skank tight end territory. He really is.
Well, you know where he is? I'll tell you where he is. He's kind of where Pitts has been.
Ooh, yeah, right? You're right.
And I did endorse Pitts last week. He had 7 catches for 65.
Yeah, you're right. Kincaid's tight end 13 in fantasy points per game. So that's like the perennial Kyle Pitts. So it's a great call. Yeah. The role has just not been good enough. I mean, he's 19th in route share, 11th in targets per game among tight ends. Shakir has earned more targets than him in their 5 games together.
Yeah, no doubt.
Cooper's going to get a bigger role. It's just hard to get excited. The matchup is just so freaking good, though. You're right.
Yeah. At the very least, like with a guy like this, like I'd say go with it. And at the very least, if it doesn't work out, say, hey, what the freaking matchup was great. Like, what can you do? I guess you can only do that so many times. Any thoughts here on, well, Brett, what do we think if DK is out? I think he'll play, but if do you look at JSN at that point? Because they do funnel things inside anyway in Buffalo.
Yeah, I think even if DK plays, I kind of like, it's hard to say this because JSN's been so bad, but I do like it. Buffalo gives up like I think third fewest yards to outside receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
Their outside cornerback play is really good. They protect them with safeties as well. I do like JSN a lot in this game, and I hate to say that because every time I've said that, he's let me down.
Yeah.
You know what you do? You bet the over on JSN catches. You never bet the yards. Bet the over on catches, and this seems like a spot for this.
And Brett, you are the aren't you the Amari Cooper maven? Like, didn't you kind of nail that last week? So tell us what the hell he's going to do this week.
Yeah. Well, I imagine he gets his route share up to like 70%. That would be a good, what he was 34% last week. So that'd be a nice
34.
Nice bonus there. The Seattle secondary has been so frustrating to watch because they're so talented, but they give up a lot of big plays. I'm not really sure why that is necessarily, but yeah, I like Cooper. I mean, for sure. Him and Josh Allen seem to already have a connection. There's some improv stuff going on. I know it was a very small sample, but I like what I see there. So roll with it.
I'm really warming up to Keon Coleman too. I was not.
It's good.
I was like, yeah. I was like, it's all right, but yeah, I like him. He's pretty good. And it's all of a sudden, like, they kind of have a very intriguing receiving group. Like, out of nowhere, it felt like, and that's what getting a one can do, Graham, right? Well, I mean, all of a sudden, like, the room looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Cooper's going to pull coverage. He's going to pull coverage over the top. And I mean, he only ran 12 routes last week, got 5 first read targets. Like, what's that look like when he starts running 25 or 30 routes a game? Like he will. I think Cooper is a really good buy right now. And, Brett, I think you mentioned this last week, that he's going to open up for everything else. And small sample, but just watching the game last week, he certainly did that small sample last week.
Carolina at Denver, and I'm just going to cancel Carolina here. I'm out. I'm outie 5,000 or whatever the hell they used to say back in 1989. Bryce Young, I mean, I didn't like Deontay last week. I kept saying on our live stream, I mean, he's really beat up, man. And now you got Bryce Young and a bad matchup. Like, can we just punt on the Panthers? Even Chuba, Graham. Even Chuba.
I think you play Chuba for the volume. I mean, last week, 84% snap rate, season high.
If you need him, yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. I got Javonte and Chuba in this game.
Yeah.
It's Johnson's beat up. Johnson's beat up, and guess what? Pat Surtain's back. Missed last week with the concussion. He's going to shadow Johnson. Full practice today. So Surtain will be on Johnson, and yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just looking for some confidence from Bryce Young, right? Like, obviously, the physical limitations are what they are, but he's got to play with a little bit of confidence, and this is a horrific spot. I mean, you could not dial up a worse spot, really. I mean, obviously there's some more talented defenses with better players, but by scheme, Broncos they send just an absolute ton of blitzers, 40% of opposing teams dropbacks, and Bryce Young is horrific against the blitz.
They're straight up ball, the Broncos defense.
Yeah, they're so good, dude. And they're getting Surtain back. They'll just leave him on an island, do his thing, and just blitz the crap out of Young.
You cannot run against the Broncos. 40% success rate allowed this year, which is the lowest in the league. I mean, you cannot run against them. Bryce is going to be in 3rd and 10 all day long. This is
all day
ugly.
Little known fact, by the way, if you Google synonym for horrific, actually Goorific comes up 3rd on the list. So I mean, it's the opposite of Goorific.
That should be on the synonym list there, John, not the
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Although Goorific is in the Urban Dictionary. I don't know if you knew.
Oh, is
that,
it?
But yeah.
Oh, big time.
Somebody put it. They put it. Of course, I freaking spelled my name wrong when they said something uttered by my. They spelled it Hanson. Anyway, what is up with Cortland Sutton? Did he retire? Did he quit? I mean, what is going on? Do you see anything there, Brett? Is there like a schism going on?
Well, he doesn't separate, and Bo Nix won't throw into tight windows. It's as simple as that. Never did at Oregon. Never did at Auburn.
Oh,
He's a throw guy. and Sutton's just not open ever. So you have to force it into tight windows if you're going to throw it to Courtland Sutton, and that's just not a thing. So
there it is.
Listen, Sean, I think Sean Payton's actually done a pretty good job. He got off to a slow start. They're playing much better. Knicks has been slightly better, but this offense has been better. I'm actually kind of stashing Troy Franklin in some deep leagues.
Yeah,
I picked him up for a few fab bucks. Not led the team, but he had a season high in routes, season high in targets last week. For all the reasons that Brett just lined out with Sutton, I think Peyton's done a good job just trying to mix and match and try to find something in this receiver group. And if he's already trusting Franklin with a pretty decent route share at 65% for a rookie, Sean Payton has buried rookies in his career. I think it's a bull signal for Franklin long term. We're looking for rookies to break out around this time. Yeah. So I think Franklin's a little sneaky.
When do we start?
For what it's worth.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, for what it's worth, I got a really good vibe on Troy Franklin when I sat down with him. Smart kid, respectful, real nice, real nice. What'd you have, Brett?
Say, when do we start talking about Bo Nix as the Konami code guy?
Right?
150 rushing yards and 3 tutties already? I mean, 70.
He's like the new Tim Tebow out there.
Yeah, except he can actually throw. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, it's been good, dude. They give him a couple design things too. Like his scrambling's not been bad. Yeah. He projects really well this week. Like
I saw that
really well. Like
the stuff that they're designing for him in the run game is really cool stuff. Like if the Colts start doing that with Richardson, we'd have something there, but they're not. So we'll give it to Bo Nix and let him be the Konami code.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I don't know if I can get there with Nix for fantasy, like in one quarterback leagues, but if you draft him in Superflex, he's just been like the man last couple weeks, super consistent.
KC at LV, and I think we all know what D-Hop is going to be. He's going to be what Doo Smith-Schuster was 2 years ago, right? And, a lesser version, I guess, what Ray Shee has been, Brett, unless you disagree. I kind of like it. I got him wrong, by the way, when he came out. I wasn't a D-Hop guy. I was like, he's not that big. He's not that fast. Route running is But what I did, he's gotten a lot better, I think. But what I undersaw was those freaking meat hooks and just the ballerism and, playmaking, just get the ball. I wouldn't be shocked if he scored 7 or 8 touchdowns from here on out from Mahomes.
I agree. Ballerism is a new term going in my dictionary, by the way. That's epic. I like Hopkins. He is the number one trait that I look for in wide receivers, which is body control. The dude is always in control of his body. He can fly around the field, make ridiculous catches. But, man, his career in the slot has been legitimately good. I even started going back to his Cardinals tape to watch him in the slot. He's a really good slot receiver, but just last year, 6th in ass from the slot on 95 routes run, 2.95 yards per route run. So, like, he can be very productive from the slot, and I love – he's such a savvy veteran zone beating player right now that it's exactly what they're going to use him for. I think he's going to eat. I think he could give you everything Rashee Rice is, was giving us, maybe a little bit less of the yak. But as far as production and volume goes, I think it's right there, man.
Graham, I'm going to ask you this question. Get ready. I know it's tough, but right now, Pat Mahomes is on pace to throw 17 touchdown passes on the season. He has averaged 36 in his career. So my contention is, and with D-Hop this helps, he's throwing 20 from now until the end of the season. So your thoughts?
It is a game changer for their offense for, 2 reasons. Obviously, for all the reasons that Brett just lined out. D-Hop's definitely not toast. Was better than Calvin Ridley, even on his routes by separation, win rate on the outside, better by yards per route run than Calvin Ridley this year. It's secondarily huge for Xavier Worthy. Go back and rewatch that game last week.
Yes.
Watch how the Niners dictate coverage towards Worthy. They were scared of him, man. And Mahomes missed him on a 70-yard touchdown. That doesn't really need to be talked about. Worthy got behind the defense. He was wide ass open. But I think last week was a massive bull signal for Worthy. Led the team in targets with 8, led the team in first reads, 35% share over Kelsey. By the way, a 35% first read target share is like what Rashee Rice was getting. Also set a new season high in route share. So if Hopkins is going to be kind of dictating a little bit more coverage in the middle of the field, man, it could be really good for Worthy. So I
Yeah, I
like the
agree.
call with Mahomes, John, but I think Worthy's the guy I want to buy the most here. I think
Hey,
that's my lean right now.
100% makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, as we all predicted, Kareem Hunt looks like a league winner, for now. I mean, at least this week, he's a week 8 winner, as he was a week 7 winner, I would think. And then Raiders, I guess we're going to get maybe Jacoby Myers back. I mean, that's
Maybe not though,
matchup.
John. I saw today a couple hours ago. He didn't practice today. He got back yesterday, but didn't practice today. So
he didn't go today.
Maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just going to be all the Brock Bowers. I mean, this is already a great schematic matchup for Bowers against KC, playing so much too high, but man, he's like locked for 12 targets in this game.
Absolutely absurd. I've never seen anything like what we're seeing here. Honestly, this has never happened.
One of one player getting a one of one role. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. All right, let's go. Chicago and the Commandos. And I hate to say it, but this was my concern with Jaden Reed. This is why I had Caleb Williams. I had him over Jaden, even though I knew Jaden had more upside. I just, the situation, all that. So we'll see if he plays or not. Probably not. Not a good spot here. Brett, I guess this would have been a very interesting test for Jaden Daniels, and maybe it still is if he goes against Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. Chicago's. I mentioned earlier the Titans playing a bad slate of QBs. Chicago's also right up there. So I think their defense is kind of propped up by the teams they've played, but they've been playing well nonetheless. So yeah, this would have been probably, I guess, Daniel's biggest test thus far as the defense he's playing and the completeness of it.
Zone heavy.
Good coverage. They do some things in the secondary that are hard to pick up on. So, yeah.
Graham, do you have anything? I mean, I don't love McLaurin here, and Mariota looked good last week, but I'm not buying it.
No, I'm not either. And man, I didn't put McLaurin on the sit list just because this is such a terrible week for receivers after we've gotten cleaned out by so many injuries. But man, Jalen Johnson, like Pat Surtain is the best cornerback in the NFL. But Jalen Johnson is pretty close, man. He's playing really, really well. Tough spot for McLaurin, that's for sure. I want to say, I think Caleb Williams is an awesome play this week. I'm not afraid of Washington's secondary at all. They're playing a ton of too high coverage just because their corners can't run with anybody. Still giving up the second most passing fantasy points per drop back. I think Caleb Williams is underrated this week, and I think he's going to be underrated for the rest of the season. He's been a pretty good fantasy quarterback and a little bit of scrambling going. So I'm buying Bears. I'm buying Caleb Williams for the rest of the season.
Keenan Allen week, I think. Washington's been awful against the slot. 122.5 passer rating allowed to targets to the slot. I think, Keenan's in the 2 games he's played the whole game, he's had a pretty good role in the offense. Everything else has, been hit or miss, but I'm firing it up again. I think I called it last week or the week before. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, and he performed pretty well.
Probably another DeAndre Swift game too, because that might be the best matchup right now against DC.
It is. He's borderline RB1 this week. I mean, Washington's front seven's so bad. Swift was left for dead. He's got 120 scrimmage yards in like 3 straight games, man. He's
unbelievable.
Awesome. He's been great.
I hear you. I mean, I got him at RB18. And it should be a little higher, but he's killed me so many times.
It is an awesome week at running back. This is the best week we've had at running back, especially vis-a-vis receiver with all these receiver injuries. This is just, it's so deep at running back this week. So RB18 is definitely not too low, I don't think.
Right.
Teams are just running the ball in Washington. They have like one of the lowest pass rate over expectation against teams. They haven't had to pass, so they just go to the run.
Yeah.
Let's go to Dallas and San Fran. We'll start with Dallas. And I feel good about Dak and the Cowboys, Brett. I know you like in the data likes our guy, Jake Ferguson. But what are you seeing here? And CD. I mean, again, it's not that hard to figure out. CD and Ferguson this week, right?
Yeah, San Fran runs a ton of too high. I think 11th most in the league. Dak, Ferguson, CD, they are the too high killers. Like that's Dak's answer for everything too high is Ferguson and Lamb. So I think Ferguson leads the Cowboys in target share against too high. And then he's got a 2.23 yards per route run against too high as well, which is really, really good for a tight end, obviously. San Fran's also given up 9.37 yards per attempt to inline and slot players. So they're just getting gashed in the middle of the field. That's the thing. Fred Warner without Dre Greenlaw is not as good of a player. Something that no one really wants to talk about, but every time Greenlaw's off the field, Warner plays significantly worse. So they're not covering the middle of the field at all right now. They're also down Hufanga as well, which is one of their good safeties. So the middle of the field is ripe for the taking. I actually picked Dallas to win this game, guys.
So did I, actually. Yeah. Not that I was copying off you, but yeah, I did too. Well, what about, I guess, the injuries, Graham, in San Fran make it a little difficult right now with Kittle and Debo?
Listen, Kyle Shanahan's an all-time great offensive coordinator, great coach. He has been horrendous with the injury report this year between McCaffrey. Debo had freaking pneumonia last week. Could barely walk. Wasn't like absolutely no reporting around it. We'll see. He didn't practice Wednesday, limited yesterday. With Debo, man, like you can make a case to fade him in DFS, take his under on his prop, but anytime Debo Samuel suits up, he's going to be in my start set leagues. So I'm kind of there with Debo. He just has so much touchdown equity. Yeah, we're waiting on that. We're also waiting on Juwan Jennings. He hasn't practiced in back-to-back sessions, so that's kind of huge for them. If Jennings doesn't play, Debo's beat up. John, your boy Ricky Pearsall led the team in routes last week. Led them in route share at 83%. What a superhuman receiver. Gets shot 50 days later, is leading his team in routes with Ayuk out. Pearsall is an underrated play this week. I think his role will be decent. Obviously, we haven't seen his role in terms of earning targets yet without Ayuk, but he's going to be on the field a ton, especially if Jennings is out this week.
Yeah. That was first Brett's guy. The story is Brett, I sit down at the bleachers and he's like, oh, go look at my guy, Ricky Pearsall. And then Ricky made 2 downfield plays where you see how he moved and everything. And I'm like, can he be my guy too? I'm like, because I love this. I love what I'm saying. And then, the rest is history. Then finally, Giants, Steelers. I mean, Malik Neighbors, Graham. I mean, there's downside here. Like maybe he catches 6, but this could get ugly here. I mean, especially if we have to go to Drew Lock. I mean, this is all my biggest fears with Neighbors and the Giants. It's all showing.
I was saying this for a couple of weeks. Like when you have a quarterback in Jones who can't stretch the field like consistently, like it's just it really
defenses know that.
It harpoons your offense, and look at what the Eagles did last week, man. They just pinned their ears back. Obviously, no Andrew Thomas was huge. I mean, he's just broken out as an awesome left tackle. So, no Thomas was massive last week, but I mean, this is just all the worst things about Daniel Jones. Like the deep passing has been awful. Then he gets knocked out of timing and rhythm with the pass rush, and it just all kind of crumbled. He's also going to catch a shadow probably from JPJ. I mean, Neighbors is just an all-world athlete and player. You're not benching him, but this is definitely probably the worst his outlook has looked in a game this season by far.
Very fair. And then Brett, Ross, hey, you got to give credit. You got to give him credit. I mean, it does seem like he's kind of unlocked things a little bit, putting the air yards under the ball to George, giving him time to adjust and all that. And then it might be Najee time and maybe Warren too, but it's looking good for Najee right now. Brett, what do you think?
Again, another one where I criticized the man's cardio on this very show, and then he goes out, puts up back-to-back good performances. So I like Najee. He looks good, man. I always get suckered in. And so I'm back. I'm back on the Najee train. The Giants, their run defense has been up and down this year. They've had moments where they're very good. Dexter Lawrence might be the most underrated defensive player in the league. I mean, the guy's an absolute monster. He can wreck any game plan you have.
Yeah, he is.
So if he's on, then it could be tough for Pittsburgh to run the ball. But man, Giants secondary can't really stop anybody either. So I kind of feel like it's another Pickens game.
Yeah. I mean, and then it will be Najee. Like Najee, don't watch the game because he might have 46 yards at the half, and then he'll run for 114. Kind of how it worked out last week. Well, we'll wrap it up here because Thursday Night Football has kicked off just in time. We have not had a play run yet, so it's perfect. We just have the kickoff. So we thank Thomas for keeping us on the air. For Brett Whitefield and Graham Barfield. I'm John Hansen Field. We'll catch you next week. Good luck here. Matchup points at FantasyPoints.com.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.